Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this 1892 pledge Q&A with myself and Trust Chair Greg Tomlinson. What we're here tonight for is to take your questions. Any questions you've got, nothing is the wrong question to ask about the 1892 pledge scheme. Greg, first of all, we'll kick off with some good news. At the time of broadcasting right now, we've had over £20,000 worth of pledges in today, which is beyond my wildest expectations. There is a live pledge tracker on the Trust website. That's a little bit behind because certain banks take longer to process things than others. But £20,000 in one day is a long way from a minimum of £3 million. But you know what? For 6 or 7 hours, it's not a bad start from the supporters of Newcastle United. So well done to all of you people watching who've achieved that. We think it's the start of something big and something special. Time will tell. And Greg, great news today. I haven't actually checked since this afternoon, but we're crossed 15,000 members for the Supporters Trust for the first time.
Absolutely. What a great reaction, to get that over £20,000 pledged on day one, I think is beyond my wildest expectations, and what a great start. And let's keep the momentum going. Really. So thank you to everybody who has pledged already. And a lot of those are regular pledges. One of the things about this scheme is pledge what you can when you can, but those regular pledges every month are what is going to get us to a position where we can have a real influence. So thank you to those that have pledged, and keep spreading the word. Tell your mates, tell everyone you work with, spread the word.
Totally. It's the monthly pledges that are going to be key here. But of course, we're so grateful to people who've pledged for the first time. Incredible effort from Newcastle fans today to get to 20,000 a day. I mean, I'd have been happy with a few thousand. That would have been great. So to cross the £20,000 mark after just a few hours after launch, I mean, that just shows me, Greg, the unbelievable potential of this fan base. And that's why we've launched the 1892 pledge scheme, because Newcastle fans get put down a lot particularly in the national media. But if there's one group of fans or one set of supporters who could pull something this ambitious off, it's the fans of Newcastle United. So it's been a crazy day. We'll have to say thanks to everyone who's given us the platform here, Newcastle Fans TV, Gallagher Shots and Chris, and the Newcastle United Supporters Trust, True Faith as well. Wherever you're watching this, thank you for joining us on this, your Thursday night at 7 o'clock. And Greg, should we crack on and get some questions going, questions answered even?
Yep, that's what we're here for. So let's crack on,
Yeah. So essentially, what we've got is a comment section. Whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, get your question in the comment section. We'll do everything we can to get through as many questions as we can. We've got at least an hour, to try and get as many questions from you guys as we can. Even if you're skeptical, even if you're not convinced, we want to hear from you. Whether you're a Trust member, whether you've never heard of the Trust before, whether you're behind the pledge scheme, whether you're not, we want your questions tonight. We have nothing to hide. We have nowhere to hide. We want to answer your questions. That's what me and Greg are here for. And thanks for all the kind comments coming in from people like Rachel there. Let me just try and find a question for us. So first one, big one. Have you spoken to the consortium currently? I know they're happy with the proposals. Greg, if you don't mind, I'll take this one. No, I haven't. We're involved a little bit with Amanda Staveley last summer when we canvassed our members to get in touch with their MPs to try and put us in front of Richard Masters, and 8,000 of you answered the call. And thanks to range of pressure from MPs, we got in front of Richard Masters and got some answers. Not the answers we maybe wanted, but we got some answers. Rather than go to anyone this time and tell them what we might do or what we're going to do, we thought it would be better to do it, rather than speaking to potential owners and telling them what could be. We wanted to get this launched. We want to get this off the ground because it's absolutely essential that this had a good start. And we think it has had a good start today, with the 20,000 in there already. So rather than, speaking to potential owners, we want to do this for the supporters, for the wider fan base. And then if we're successful, and it looks like we're going to be successful, we've had a good start, I'll repeat that, then those conversations could happen as and when this PCP and partners and their colleagues get control of the club. There's no point us going and telling people what we might do. We'll have to show them what we can do as Newcastle United supporters and the Supporters Trust in trying to raise a sizable sum of money. You know, if the club is sold in the Premier League, and let's face it, we all want the club to be sold in the Premier League. I imagine most of the people watching want this club to be sold to Amanda Staveley's consortium. That's what we all want at the Trust. It's going to cost a lot of money just for 1%, but this is why we're here. This is what we're doing. The 1892 pledge scheme tries to envisage what can be possible. What as Newcastle United supporters can we achieve? That's what I'm excited to find out, Greg.
Absolutely. Well said. I don't think I really need to elaborate on that. That's such a well put point, really, Alex, on that one. I mean, what a great start. But yeah, you talk to people with the money talks, I think is the line that you used earlier today, Alex. You talk to people when you have something that you can do. And we can put the fans through this scheme together in a position where we can go and do things, and money talks. So let's build that fund, and then we're going to have the conversations.
Yeah, Mark says very ambitious project, but definitely something to get behind. Thanks, Mark. We don't deny this is ambitious. We don't think it's unrealistic, but we know it's ambitious. That's why we're really keen to make clear that if this money that you're good enough to put into the Supporters Trust can only be used for two reasons. You know, we've appointed our four guardians: Warren Barton, Lee Humble, corporate accountant, Ian Mearns MP, and George Colkin, football writer. They look after your money. You know, they know it's an ambitious project. Alan Shearer knows it's an ambitious project, but he's publicly backed the scheme tonight. I should probably load an image of that to show people rather than just say it, but I'll get onto that while you're talking, Greg. We know it's ambitious, but you know what? Newcastle United should be ambitious. You don't hear about ambition enough in relation to Newcastle United these days. You don't hear about hope enough in relation to Newcastle United these days, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build an ambitious scheme to do something ambitious. Never been done before in the Premier League, never been done by a different set of supporters in the Premier League, but there's nothing to say, you know, that we won't be the first. No one had got a 50,000 average attendance since the Second World War. In the Championship, we did it as Newcastle United fans, one of the highest crowds in Europe, while a Championship team. If there's anyone, I keep saying it, if there's anyone who could do this, it is the supporters of Newcastle United. Let's have a look for some questions here, because there's lots of really, really brilliant comments coming in. So John says, how about contacting the likes of Shearer, KK, Sting, Mark Knopfler and others? So yeah, we have spoken to Alan Shearer. He's on board. He's tweeted it tonight. I can confirm he has pledged to the scheme. So if Alan Shearer is on board, that, you know, that for me, Greg, although me and you have launched this, that would be good enough for me, that Alan Shearer would support something like this. If it's good enough for Shearer, good enough for Warren Barton, Steve Howie's on board, which is fantastic. Hopefully we'll see more of these players coming out. It was a complete shock to us this afternoon that Alan Shearer gave us his public support like he did, mate. How did it make you feel?
Oh, so proud, so proud. I think I took a screenshot of it and sent it to all my mates. I mean, to have, you know, Alan Shearer, you know, back up this scheme, you know, shows us, you know, validates some of that hard work. But yeah, it's just the beginning as well, and all the support we can get. But yeah, unbelievable. I mean, makes you warm inside to a point when someone like Alan Shearer, I mean, I'm lost for words almost at that. On day one, to have had that, you know, that support is phenomenal.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just trying to find some questions. This is a good question from Ken. Hello, Ken, mate. How long will the money be held before it's given to charity? So essentially what we've agreed with the guardians who look after your money is that if the fund doesn't grow by 10% in a year, they would vote whether to end the fund and donate to charity or not. Any vote that our guardians made, whether to donate the money to charity or if we came to an agreement of potential owners of Newcastle United, any vote that they made would need to be ratified by the members of the Supporters Trust. So if you've pledged and you've joined the trust because the money belongs to the trust, you have a vote in where that money goes. So if you want the plans, you know, if you believe that it's not going to happen for whatever reason, and the money goes to charity, you get a vote on that. If we do speak to owners in the future who say, okay, give us your X million pounds or whatever it may be, you can, you know, and we'll give you a couple of board positions, or this is how we'll make supporters integral to the club for use of that money. You get a vote on that as well. So everything goes through the Supporters Trust members. You're the most important people here, the Supporters Trust members. The money belongs to you. Let's have a look. Ed Coles, Greg, because I've done a lot of talking so far, so I'll leave to you. What can we do with 1% of ownership?
Well, what can you do with 1%? Well, that's a good question, and it's looking into the future. But I think actually you can do quite a lot with 1%. We're not naive enough to think 1% lets you run a football club. We know that. But what it does do is it gives you a seat at the table, and it gives you a relationship with the people who own your football club. and it gives you an influence on them and their behaviour in a way that they make their decisions. And it means that the fans are at the heartbeat of how the decisions that when they're being made at the football club. For example, decisions to rename the stadium to the Sports Shop Arena. Was there a Newcastle fan consulted on that decision? Think of all of those decisions like that have been made over the last 14 years, and just think, would a Newcastle fan sat in or sat as part of that process, go along with that? To what point? Think about that. So I think it does. But the main benefit at 1% is really that behaviour. Any owner who comes in and takes on this football club should see our fan base as an asset. Alex has just talked about 50,000 fans in the Championship. If anyone can do this scheme and get it to 1%, and it is us. But yeah, it's about influence, it's about relationships, and it's about making sure that the fans are at the heartbeat of every decision that the club makes. But ultimately, equally, we know 1%, we're not naive, we know 1% is not 51%. It doesn't give you control of the football club, but it gives you far more influence in how it's ran for the betterment of Newcastle United fans.
Well said, mate. Jamie asks from Facebook, what is the target amount? Great question, Jamie. It's very hard to know what the target amount is because it depends on what the football club sells for. But what we do know from what we read in the media is that in the Premier League, as a Premier League club, the club seems to be valued as a minimum by Mike Ashley of £300 million. That's what he wants to sell it. So you'd say 1% of 300 million is £3 million. So that's probably our minimum target. Now, we want to raise this money for a number of reasons. It's not just about the Premier League. We only have to look at what happened to Sunderland, got relegated twice. It could happen to anyone, that, or particularly badly run clubs, of which we would argue Newcastle is one. And, let's be ready. Let's be ready to save the club. So it's not just about getting the 3 million if we got there and stopping. It could take us a couple of years to get to 3 million. This is a long-term project. This is about raising as much as we possibly can to get as much of the club as we can. And we can't promise you anything here. This isn't, give us this money and we will get the club. We're just a group of ordinary football fans like everyone watching this right now. We just want to make the future better than the past, because as Greg correctly says, there's so much going on at Newcastle United that, makes your head, makes you want to shake your head whenever you think about it. We want to make sure that there are fans on the inside of the club in the future, and that doesn't guarantee anything. And like we say, there's no guarantee of this. All we can guarantee is your money will go to buying a part of the club or the local charities. So we see there's a no-lose situation. But I think a target amount, as Jamie asked, good, really good question. We're looking at a minimum of £3 million. We'd love to raise more. Let's see what we can do. What is realistic? We're going to find out. Tomlinson says, really ambitious idea. Thanks, Tom. It is. We appreciate your support. Chris Wallace says, can you explain the difference between buying the club and having a share in the club? Seems like there's some confusion on social media. Well, that's what we're here to do, Chris. Me and Greg is clear up any confusion and answer your questions. So, Greg, do you want to take that one, mate?
So can you just pop the question, well, the difference between buying the club and having a share in the club? Well, that's like what I said before, where we know, this is going to be pretty ambitious if this scheme was to raise enough money to buy the club outright. But at Mike Ashley's current valuation, 1%, you're looking at around £3 million. And that's about, obviously, with a willing seller, and a willing new buyer that we could go on board with 1% and having that influence, really. But the way that this was set up, and the money can only be used to buy a share in Newcastle United, that share would then, subject to the members of the trust agreeing to that purchase, would then be owned by the supporters trust.
Spot on. Question here, can I ask what do NUST think you can achieve with 1%? Well, we've talked about that. Greg's given an answer about that already. Also, this has been discussed with the NUST since 2018. Why are paying members only finding out today? That's because to launch something, you have to build it. You have to do the hard work in the background. If you just went to a load of members and said whatever came into our head, that would be an unrealistic and ridiculous way to do things, to be honest with you. The trust is completely transparent. We had the largest ever supporter elections in English football history with nearly 6,000 people voting last year. We've attracted 15,000 people to the trust. We as a board are elected on pledges. My election pledge was to launch the most ambitious, fan-led fundraising project in English football history. So I've stood on that platform, so it wasn't a secret to anyone, and nearly 70% of the trust members voted me back in on that platform. So we're totally confident with the way we've handled things so far. Greg, I will look for another question from Julian. Can you clarify the corporate governance process that oversees the management of funds generated by the pledge scheme? Thanks. Great question, Julian.
That is a very good question. Well, I guess first of all, we have our trustees, which you've heard about. Guardians. Guardians. And that was bound to happen, wasn't it? Guardians. The guardians that are going to look after. They are there to guard, to look after, to safeguard that money. So it will sit in a separate bank account, effectively an escrow, and it is protected. And they form that group. So we'll have Warren Barton, ex-Newcastle United right hand England right back. We'll have Lee Humble, who is a chartered accountant and a Newcastle supporter. Ian Mearns, MP, Gallagher End, season ticket holder, and George Culkin, the senior writer at The Athletic. Their role is to effectively look after and safeguard that money. So it's in a separate account. It's separate to the funds that we generate from our membership in terms of the day-to-day running costs of the trust. And it's there, and its purpose is to be only to be able to be used when and if to buy shares in Newcastle United. The other point to note as well is any recommendation made by the trustees, I've done it again, made by the guardians, I'll get that right, guardians, any recommendations made by the guardians, for example, to cease the scheme or, for example, to buy a share in the club, would go to a vote of the members of the Supporters Trust. And it's the trust runs and operates on a very clear one member, one vote policy.
Well said. Aaron says, I've seen some people say they would rather a refund instead of all the money going to charity. Thoughts? Yeah, Aaron, this is something that we discussed at length before launch. We wanted to make sure we're going to do something really positive. We wanted to make sure that whatever happened with this money, it went somewhere positive. That's why we've gone down the charity route. Refunds are complicated because you either have a fund or you don't. If people were dipping in and out of it, we might not be sure of how much money we actually had when it came to it. There's also a lot of fees involved in refunding large sums of money between bank accounts and transaction merchants and stuff like that. So it's just a non-starter. Appreciate that. It might not appeal to everyone, but we had to make a decision that we thought was best ahead of launch. And we're happy today, with the way it's gone. We think a lot of people are behind it, but we also understand this isn't for everybody, and people are skeptical, and that's fair enough. We're here to be as transparent as possible and give you some of the answers to your questions and the reasons. But that's definitely something we considered, mate. But decided to go for the charity aspect instead. Mike Baird says, how regularly do you plan to update trust members and their financial positions and plans? Well, Mike, every single day on the 1892 Pledge website, you can see the website scrolling along the bottom of your screen there. The money is updated. So we're totally transparent with this in terms of what's gone in to the pledge scheme and what is in the pledge scheme at the minute. So you can see every single day. You can update your page to refresh it to see how it's getting on at any given point in time. Some donations you make won't update straight away because some banks take longer than others to process direct debit payments, but the vast majority should update straight away. I think it's a 3 to 5 day processing wait on certain banks. But we want to be completely transparent about this. You can log on to our website 24 hours a day and have a look at what's there, mate. Mike Jen said, what's your thought on safe stance in James's Park? Love it, mate. Get it done. What else have we got? Okay, with fan-led ownership, how would the decision-making of the day-to-day runners of the club be affected? Will it be down to a vote like other clubs? Okay, great question, Aaron. Fan-owned doesn't mean fan-run. So if the club ever did get a majority shareholding in the club, if it fell through the leagues and we had to save it or whatever, you want your football club to be run by the very best people in that industry who have experience, who have knowledge. So, whilst we think there should be fan influence at the club, we don't think clubs should be run by, for example, members of the Supporters Trust board. Having said that, I look at our board of guardians who look after your money in Warren Barton, George Culkin, Ian Mearns, and Lee Humble, and I look at the Newcastle United board at the minute, which doesn't exist. There's only Lee Charnley in any kind of corporate management position at the club. And I'd say our board would probably do a better job of running the club with their experience, their skills and their know-how. But supporter-owned does not mean supporter-run in general. But of course, any of those decisions, even in how the trust would do things if we achieved our goal, would be down to you, the members. It wouldn't be up to me and Greg. Greg, do the current owners know of your plans? I think they do now.
I think they probably do now, yeah. Not before launch, no, but I think they probably do now, given the media attention today. I've seen a lot actually on social media today around, would this mean 1% of buying 1% off the current owner? Now, if we were in a position to buy 1%, that is a matter for the members to decide based on a recommendation from the trustees. My personal view is that we should be looking to buy 1% when the club is sold and when it changes hands, because 1% with the current owner wouldn't change behaviours. But that, again, is a matter for the members. It's not a matter for Alex and myself. But yeah, so I think they know of our plans.
Nice one. Tobias asks, where, when did you guys first get the idea? So the idea came from the foundation of Heart. So Heart of Midlothian in Scotland have done this exact scheme, a pledge scheme, and I think they've got 8,000 fans donating monthly. They've raised 12 million quid. They're going to be a fan-owned club from May the 31st this year. And if you got any of you guys are watching, wanted to hear from the likes of Warren Barton tomorrow night, we've got guests from Hearts to come on to the live event, which the Chronicle are hosting on their social media platforms. They're going to tell you what they did and how they think we can replicate it. So we heard about Hearts and what Hearts have done in this huge amount of money. This, no disrespect to Hearts, I think they're a fantastic club. I'm a Hearts fan myself now. But, in terms of size of support, they're very small compared to Newcastle United. To see what they've achieved, for them to save their football club like they did. They put £3 million of the money they raised into a brand new stand, fantastic stand at their ground. So that's, they inspired us to do this. There's a few other clubs up and down the country as well that have done great things. But I think, what we did when we decided to do it, I'll tell you the story. I don't know about anyone watching, but I walked in late to that West Ham game that we lost 3-0 under Rafa Benitez in December 2018. And I'd read on social media how, I thought I'm going to have to get there like early, not to the ground, but just to queue up, because I probably won't get in until half time because there's so many people don't walk in on time. And unfortunately, there was only a couple of thousand people did it. And actually, when we walked in, the team conceded a goal, which was a bit of a nightmare as well. And I kind of realised then that all of this direct action, all of this boycott stuff, which I've supported myself, by the way, I'm not passing the buck here. I'd supported it as much as anyone. We just thought there had to be a better, more constructive way to try and influence the future. So trying to force Mike Ashley out for all the great efforts that have been constructed in that area. Greg, you can tell people more about that more than I can with the stuff that you've done. We just thought there had to be a positive and an ambitious scheme for supporters to get behind, something that really celebrates the Newcastle United fan base. And every time I click on the account for the money that we've raised, the figure goes up again. So we think so far on day one, we've kind of proved to ourselves and proved to the world, because this has been big news. It's been on Sky Sports, BBC, 5 Live, Sky Sports News. We think that this is the time for Newcastle United fans to come together and do something positive. I hope that answers your question. Let's have a look at a few more. Getting a few of the same questions which we've already touched on, so I'll try not to repeat ourselves. This, of course, will be available to rewatch, or you can rewind if you're watching live. Steve Burnham says, you sure you're not raising money for a haircut, pal? No, I can afford my own haircut, Steve, mate, but the barbers don't open until Monday, and unlike Joe Linton, I don't know anyone to come around and do it, but you'll see the difference next week if you jump on a live stream. Great to have support from Greece. Thanks very much, mate. Chris Wallace says, can I get an 1892 pin badge? Yes, you can, Chris. That's a great question. I'm wearing mine here. I'm going to try and hold it up to the camera. Greg's not wearing his because he's useless.
I don't know where it is. Somewhere.
There's the pin badge. Basically, anyone who pledges and creates an account while you pledge, you get a referral code. And if you send that referral code and one person that you send it to pledges, we will send you one of these in the post if you live in the UK. So we think they're quite smart. Greg's furiously looking for his. But yeah, good question, Chris. You can get them there. You can get it held up to the camera, Greg.
Get it on. Got to be done.
got to be done. Here's a long question from Peter. Greg, I'll let you take this one, but I'll read it out. How is the new proposal any different compared to the initial aims when the Trust or Supporters Club, as it was back then, was set up in 2008? Feels like we've already tried this before, and I don't really know why it failed last time. Lack of funds? Why will this time be any different? No intention of being negative. I want to be convinced. Peter, don't at all think you're being negative. I think it's a fantastic question. Thanks for sending it in, Greg.
That's a very good question, and I can't speak for those custodians of the trust at the time who ran that scheme at the time. But the main way that this is different is it's not a financial product. It is literally a pledge. It is put your money in and it goes in and it sits there. I think, I understand parallels obviously previously in terms of that campaign that yes, we can. But I think also, the water under the bridge in the last 10 years and Mike Ashley's still here. Yes, that was a driving factor behind that campaign at the time. The various additional decisions that have been made on top of that, I think, now is the time to really get behind something positive. I can't comment in detail about the proposals from 10 years ago because I wasn't involved in how they were made, formulated, etc. And neither was Alex or anyone on the board at the moment, for that matter. But yeah, this isn't a financial product. It is a pledge. You pledge your money and it goes into the scheme. It's very important people understand it's not an investment. It's not. We're not asking for your pensions or any form of investment. It's to give what you can. £5 a month, if that's all. Put £5 a month in, please, if you can afford to do it. But don't overextend yourself either. This is a pay what you can afford pledge into a fund. Alex, I don't know if you've got anything else to add on that. Really, it's hard to talk back about a process that you weren't directly involved in.
Yeah, that's right. I think this is different to a lot of other things, like Greg says, because it's pay what you can. We're not selling you anything apart from an ambition. The money goes to charity if it doesn't work. We kind of think, what's there to lose? We're not asking for money, life savings, or anything like that. We only want people to pledge what they won't miss. That's the key here. We're all together as Newcastle fans, and that's the key message. Again, Paul Davidson asked a question. Paul, I'll just touch on this once more because we've talked about it. Greg went through in great detail earlier in the conversation that we've appointed 4 guardians: Warren Barton, ex-Newcastle and England player; Ian Mearns, MP for Gateshead; George Colgan, football writer for The Athletic; and Lee Humble, corporate accountant. They look after your money. It's not me and Greg or other trust board members. They look after your money. They make sure it's safe. You can check every single day on the Pledge website, 1892pledge.co.uk, which you can see at the bottom of your screen. You can click on it now, head there now, see how much is raised, and that hopefully gives you your answer. Bond says, I think it's a great idea, but in the bafflingly small minority of people staunchly against the proposed take on moral grounds, how do I ensure my money isn't in business in PIF? Well, there's no way to guarantee that apart from if you're a trust member, Pond, you get a vote like everyone else. So you do have your say because you get a vote. We're all equal. Anyone who's watching this who's a trust member, about to become a trust member, Greg, who's your chair, me, who's your previous chair and a board member, our vote counts as much as yours in the running of the trust. So everyone's equal. Everyone gets a vote, and that's all I can say to that one. Look now for some more questions here. So Train Sun says, hi lads, surely the prospective new owners will see the benefits of the scheme given their plans for investment in the local area, and transparency will be key towards this. I mean, we've covered, Greg, the fact that we haven't spoken to them yet. Do you want to just say a couple more words on what Train Sun's saying there about, what you think they might do, or, any new owners?
I think it's just to repeat that point that you made at the beginning around, wanting to go into those conversations with prospective buyers, whoever they are, with the ability to do something, rather than going in and saying, we could do this or we could do that. Let's build this scheme. Let's go and have conversations when we've got money behind it and we can actually meaningfully do something. I think that goes for the current protracted takeover at the moment. But if that was to fall through as well, then there's also the potential opportunity to go and have those conversations. Why couldn't we, in that scenario, now noting that 97% of our members want this takeover to go ahead, and very much is the view of the trust, given what's on offer, so to speak. But say it was to fall through, why couldn't it be the Supporters Trust, democratic organisation, going and talking to other organisations, other potential buyers, or these potential buyers, and saying, look, let's form a consortium. We've got X million pounds behind us. Let's come in with X percentage. You know, it might not be required. It might happen. We don't have a crystal ball here. You know, this is just the start, but let's have something behind us and be able to have that influence and have our say as a set of supporters, really.
Yeah, well said. John says, "Hi, gents. How would someone who pays £5 and the next man pays 50? How can the NUST team make that fair if there's a chance of owning a small percentage of the club?" John, we want people to give what they can. So some people might be able to give 50 quid, which is fantastic. Some people might be able to give a £5 a month. That's fantastic. You know, we can all afford different amounts. Everyone in the trust is equal. We'll all get there together. You know, this will succeed or fail based on Newcastle fans, thousands of Newcastle fans working together as one, you know, without any difference between us. We're all the same. I don't care if you're watching, you know, in Hebden or Helsinki or Washington, DC or Washington, south of the Tyne. We're all Newcastle fans. We all want the same thing. We all want this football club to be what it should be rather than what it has become. So, you know, we're quite clear on that we want people to give what they can. Everyone's equal. You know, if people can afford to give more, brilliant. We're absolutely buzzing that you can, and we're really grateful for that money. If you can only afford to give £1 a month, that's still brilliant. You know, we're still really grateful. We're all equal in the trust. I can't say much more than that.
Well said.
Ryan Norman says, if there was no opportunity to buy a share in the club in the future and the owner, whoever it is, was receptive, would it be possible to use the funds as something that would benefit the facilities? I assume you mean at the club. That's a tough one, mate, because, you know, if a new owner wasn't willing to give the fans a part of the club, then why would we be kind of gifting money to them? But like I'll keep saying, up to the trust members, up to you. If you put your money in, if you're a trust member and you've paid your £2 to join up and £1 a year thereafter as a trust member, that vote goes to you. So if new owners came along and said, no, we don't want to give you a percentage of the club, but can you give us £5 million for a new training ground? That would be up to you and the 15,000 and counting other members to make that call. But great question. There's lots of fantastic comments coming in. So let's have a look here. Alan Park says, can see how much is raised in the website. Will you be publicising how many people are pledged, how many regular donators there are? Yes, we will. Definitely, Alan, we'll do that. We'll leave it, you know, a bit of time for it to grow. Then we'll be communicating. We'll be making a noise about how, you know, how essentially how big it is, how successful it is. We want to be completely transparent and open about all of this. So let's have a look for any more questions.
Note to self there, plug your laptop into its charger before you do these things. Apologies for disappearing off the screen there.
Not everyone who will donate will be a member of the trust. Is this a way of boosting numbers also? No, I mean, you know, we're considered that making people join the trust, but you don't have to join the trust or be part of the trust. You don't get a vote on the money you donate, but we aren't trying, you know, we want this to be as open to as many Newcastle fans as possible. It would make sense, I think, if you're going to pay money into the trust to be a member and get a vote and be able to vote in elections or stand yourself in an election. The trust elections are open to all members wherever you are in the world, or your support or anything like that. But you know, we're already the biggest supporters trust in the country, where you've got to pay a fee to join at 15,000, which we're really proud of. And the fact that so many people have bought into that is, you know, makes me and Greg very proud and very humble to be part of it.
Just to add on that, I think I personally will never apologise for us wanting more members, and the reason I won't is because a stronger and bigger, more active membership gives us, as a set of supporters and a supporters trust, a louder voice, and it means we get taken more seriously. And so that's why, under Alex's leadership, the membership was put down to just £1. You know, let's come together. We're building this fantastic movement. We've got the council of members as well, the volunteers that have been helping us out. It really feels like we're building a movement here. And now we've launched this scheme. We really can do something special here if we all keep going together.
Greg, one for you here from Dylan. If when we own 1%, will the focus on improvement of the club be on the improvement of the club, or trying to buy more of the club?
That's a really good question, but I think the focus, from my perspective, obviously the focus would have to be on improvement, wouldn't it, at this point? But, you know, again, it's not what I think, it's about what the members think. And, you know, if we are in that point in time where we could own 1%, we have to work that through. But it's up to the members really in terms of that. But yeah, I think if you look at where we are now as a football club and what we need, I think, you know, we're not doing this just to say the Supporters Trust owns 1%. We're doing it because, as Alex said, we think we need Newcastle fans inside that football club helping run it. And that is to improve it and to improve the decisions that it makes. You can't, you know, that isn't just to, it's not here just to be a symbol of ownership. It's here to make it a more effective and better football club.
Paul says, what is the current amount pledged? If you know it, well, you can check, Paul, on the website flashing across your screen now. There's updates there all the time. You know, sometimes it takes longer than you know, for some banks to process payments than others. But in terms of money pledged, you know, I said at the start of the call that there was over £20,000 pledged. That's gone over £21,000 just while we've been on this call. I'm sure that's down to you good people who haven't pledged so far, really enjoying mine and Greg's answers and getting signed up. But yeah, you know, get on board. We're completely transparent. The 24 hours a day on the pledge website, you can see money that's come in. Graham Dougal, do you hope this will encourage other supporters groups to follow suit, Greg?
Interestingly, I think we've had 2 or 3 get in touch today asking for a chat, including Manchester United. Could you believe it? I think it might. Yeah. Look, this is an incredibly ambitious project, and if anyone can do it, it's Newcastle fans. But yeah, it's been done obviously lower leagues, and Alex has talked about Hearts. But yeah, I think it will.
Really funny, Calvin. I like your style. Josh says War Flags in 1892 pledge scheme collaboration. So our board member Thomas Concannon is part of War Flags, and we love War Flags. We're massive fans of them. We do stuff in collaboration with them. We did a quiz at Christmas with War Flags, who do loads of good things for charity as well. It's not just about the flags, so we're fully behind that partnership and keeping it going. Do you have any additional fundraising plans? Well, the pledge, it's a good question, James. The pledge scheme is fundraising. We're going to keep people up to date. We're going to try and stay in the media when milestones are passed. We've got a 21,000 by 25 to 8 on a Thursday night, a few hours after launch. Where can we get to? We're going to keep trying. We've got Alan Shearer on our side. He's tweeted. He's pledged. We're going to think that's a fantastic message. Warren Barton's on side. So we'll keep trying to get these recommendations from people. We'll keep trying to talk to people. It's hard at the minute because of the pandemic, but we would like to put some events on across the country, not just this country, but maybe in North America as well. Let's have a quick look, because there was a few questions there which I didn't get to about issues about fans overseas, and that's one of the things we've had a problem with today, is that overseas fans, the payment method on the website for Go Cardless is being a little bit difficult. We're on top of it. We're going to get it fixed and make sure overseas fans who are incredibly important to Newcastle United and important to the trust can pledge just as easily as fans based in the United Kingdom. But we are on that. There was always going to be a couple of hiccups with the launch, but we're on that. We're here. Let's have a look at any other questions. Let's take a hard one, Greg. Why should anyone trust you after the pathetic performance with the Premier League and their chairman? All right, cheers. Holographic sentience, if that is your real name.
Was he in there? Was this person in the room? Because you might not like what Richard Masters said, but unless you're in the room, we asked some incredibly difficult questions. You might not like the answers, but you can only ask the questions. Alex, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, well, a lot of football journalists, a lot of people, including the buyers of the club, wanted to speak to Richard Masters. Through the strength of the Trust's membership and through Newcastle fans working together, we managed to say to him, did Liverpool and Tottenham try and influence this takeover? I don't think he faced that question from anyone else in the whole country, and we got in front of him and did that. We're just ordinary fans. We're just like you. We're not experts in anything. So we would say that you should trust us because this is an ambitious idea for the future of Newcastle United. And if you're not with us, that's absolutely fine. Best of luck to you, but we'll crack on. Hi, gents. Is any of the money raised from the trust membership going towards the pledge? No, they're two separate bank accounts at the minute. The trust membership money that we get from your £1 is spent on the running of the trust and various fees for the website, for emails, for advertising and stuff like that. So there's no crossover between the two. Let's have a quick look at more questions. What about this one, Greg? What about investing the money to grow to the point where we can buy the club?
That's, again, another really good question. And it's something that I think, has been looked at in the past, but it's an absolute financial product, and financial regulation and creating investments are inherently risky and come with a lot of regulation and a lot of process and putting money at risk in that regard. So I think from our perspective, it is a pure, simple pledge scheme in the most simple and basic way. And that's why we've set it up like that.
Yeah, I've already answered this one, Greg, but I don't know if you want to take this for Scott Thomas. As a current trust member, trust represents its members. Was this action by the trust raised with its members and voted as an area the paid members wanted the trust to pursue?
So this is another good question. So this was agreed as an action by the board in a board meeting to take this pledge scheme forward, and the funds that we've put to it in terms of developing the scheme, the videos and the materials for the launch, and all of that has been agreed by the board. The board is elected. It is a set of, we are open and transparent about that. They're elected to run this organization on our members' behalf. And I think just Alex alone, if you look at Alex's statement from his campaign when he was re-elected to the trust board with a large majority of the vote, was all about this, and 70-odd% of our members voted for Alex in that point. So no, we haven't taken every single point and every single decision back out to the members in that regard, or else they would never get any business done as a functioning organization. You have to trust us as your elected representatives to make those decisions. We think we get them right more often than not, but we're not we're not perfect. So, if you have concerns or issues, we're always here and we're always open to listening to that. But yeah, agreed by the board based on that public commitment in those manifestos and those statements. And then here we are today with the launch.
Great, well said. Julian says, you mentioned the figure of £12 million that Hearts fans were able to raise. Just out of interest, how long did it take them to get to that number? 2014, and I think they had that figure in 2020, so it took them 6 years to get that £12 million, mate. Mark says, great scheme, or good. I'm not trying to exaggerate what you're saying here, Mark. Good scheme. I just set up the direct debit. Brilliant, mate. We really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Paul says, fantastic scheme. Brilliant. Really, like we've said, we're working on the foreign payment aspect of it and try and get a link up there. Mark says, some are right in thinking this depends on a takeover going through. Mark, that is 100% correct. This is totally reliant on the takeover going through. One day, Mike Ashley will be gone from the club. I know it's hard for a lot of fans to envisage that day at the minute. It's difficult for that reason, but we want to be ready for that day. We want to make sure we have a seat at the table within the club, hopefully, and no guarantees here. We're not trying to sell something that we can't. We're selling an ambition and a hope that when the club does change hands, and it will one day, sooner rather than later, hopefully, but we're prepared for anything. This is a long-term plan. To be able to speak to new owners and say, we've raised this much money, can we buy a percentage of the club based on what we've raised, and what can you give us in return for that? That's the plan. Mike's just confirming there. Martin says, I think the website crashed. It's crashed at several points today, mate. I know this sounds weird, but that's a good thing because of the interest and the amount of people trying to get on at once. We really want it to stay up, but if it's crashed for anyone, it's come back on with the refresh or 1 or 2 minutes later. Does this mean in the future that I can claim to be part owner of Newcastle United, Greg, for Johnny Burns?
Well, if we were successful, it would be the trust that would own the 1%. But if you're a member of the trust, then you also own part of the trust, and then the trust would potentially own that 1%. We can't predict the future, but that's what we're here. That's what we've set this scheme up for, and that's how it would work.
Setting up a direct debit now. My brother better pledge with my link, get the badge. Yep, stick it on social media, Ryan. If not, or send it to as many Newcastle fans as you know. If you get something to get your badge, promise completely. Thanks from Magpies 24/7. We're getting a lot of similar questions. Imagine Rio smoke face tonight. That was a bit weird. I'm not lying. A couple of weeks ago, I had to check my phone to say it wasn't tapped because we've been planning this for 3 years. What Rio said was ridiculous because raising £300 million and then in the Premier League, that is beyond us. We're not claiming we're going to raise the money to buy 100% of Newcastle United in the Premier League. I appreciate he's a very rich man, so he's probably just used to getting what he wants. But if comments like that are meant to belittle fans, they're not meant to aid us. And with us and the people who've pledged so far and people pledging in the future, we'll concentrate on Newcastle United and doing the best we can and ignoring people saying stupid things like that. Greg, sorry, one question. I'm getting quite a lot. I'll just try and find one of them to put on the screen. Here's one from Aaron. How do you make sure everyone's voices are heard and not just those at the top of the pyramids, social media influencers? Do you want to take that one for Aaron?
I can do, absolutely, yeah. So I think the most important thing, and this is about how the trust runs full stop, is that we operate on a one member, one vote basis. So every single member has the same say. Now, when it comes to the pledge, you don't have to be a member of the trust to make a pledge. But when it comes to the vote on how we use that fund, you do need to be a member because the fund will ultimately be owned by the Supporters Trust. But, it's not influenced by anybody on social media in terms of your followers or your podcast or YouTube or anything like that. One member has one vote, and it is as simple as that when it comes to voting on any recommendations that are made by the Guardians.
Yeah. Karen asks, to become a member, can I make a donation direct from my bank tap your PayPal? Karen, you don't have to have a PayPal account to become a member. You don't have to log in. There's an option to just put your card details in and pay through that, so it doesn't need to be from your bank. In terms of the pledge, it has to be from through Go Cardless, which is a direct debit platform, even if it's a one-off payment. Lorraine Watt says, Lorraine Waite says, can you buy the pin with the money going into the pot? Not yet. We've only got a limited amount of badges, so we want people to tell their friends, tell their family, get that referral and get it free of charge instead. Dean Richardson says, a lot of negativity within the club and the fan base lately. Well done to everyone involved. A fantastic scene up the mags. Psycho Livo says, have you spoken to other fan groups for advice? Like Pompey Supporters Trust, who stepped in to save their club. Yes, mate, we've spoken to people who were very instrumental in saving Portsmouth. We've been speaking to people at football clubs up and down the country who stepped in to save their clubs. It was really, really important that we consulted people who've been there and done it. It's very, very vital to speak to the people who've actually got the experience of trying to do what we are trying to do as well. Greg, just for people, again, I mean, we've answered the question a couple of times, but we keep getting asked it about the involvement of people trying to buy the club, and specifically Amanda Staveley and her consortium, who came so close last summer, and as we read in the press, are fighting a battle right now to get it. Can you answer the question there about why we haven't spoken to them?
So just to reiterate, we haven't spoken to any prospective buyers because we want to be in a position where we're going to have those conversations with a fund behind us, and we can say, look, we've got this, we can do this, not we're speculating we might be able to do this, could we potentially do this? So that is the primary reason. But we're open, and if any prospective buyer wants to have a conversation, they can. We're probably the easiest people to find. We're very contactable. The current consortium have Alex's phone number, so if they want to get in touch and have a conversation, we are here. We are very easy to be found. But the fundamental principle in that, in terms of launching this scheme, getting it going, is we want to be in a position where we can do things. So we have a fund, we can go and do things rather than speculate. You get taken seriously when you have money, and money can talk, and you can actually enact and do things. If we say we would love to buy 1%, how much money have you got behind you? Or we're going to go and raise it later. It's not really a compelling argument for anybody to do business with you. But if we get in a position where we've got something behind us as a supporters trust, we can go and have those very serious conversations and hopefully really do something meaningful here.
Yeah, Darren asks, will any of the guardians of yourselves receive salaries or payments for time worked? 100% no, Darren. Absolutely not. We are volunteers who care about Newcastle United. So are the guardians. There's no way we would ever take money from any of the trust money. It's simply not what supporter activism is all about. Everything that me and the other board members do, and Greg, I can speak on your behalf as well, do this for the love of the football. Not interested in anything like that at all. John says, how can people in North America contribute to the trust? You can join through nufctrust.co.uk, and then you can pledge, John, on the website. On the bottom, we are having some problems with international payments for the pledge, but they'll be sorted very soon. Peter asks, where specifically is the money stored? It's stored in the trust's bank account. The guardians have control over it. We aren't looking at investments or high interest accounts or anything like that. The money can only be spent on two things. We wouldn't invest the money. It can be spent on buying shares in Newcastle United or to go to local charities in the Northeast. Let's have a look for any other questions here as we get to the end of the hour. Chris Wallace says, do you have any plans to be doing the rounds across media outlets in the Premier League and UFC podcast? I'll let you take this one, Greg, mate.
Well, we're open to invitations. Chris, I think I heard you run one, don't you? So, no, in all seriousness, yeah, we're open to go and talking about the scheme. Look, we're an open book. We'll talk to you till the cows come home on this in terms of any serious questions and whatnot. And one of the key challenges is really going to be maintaining momentum. We've had a monumental launch date of the day, far beyond, my wildest dreams. Makes me think of Bobby Robson. We didn't have that. We didn't have wild dreams. That quote wasn't beyond our wildest dreams because we did have wild dreams. But what a day! So yeah, but the answer is yeah, absolutely. Get in touch.
Richard says, have you thought about approaching ex-players to donate for raffles similar to what Shearer just did? We've already got some ex-players on board, like you're saying, Alan Shearer, Steve Howie and Warren Barton. We'll want to do events and futures for people who contribute to the pledge after the pandemic. We're definitely going to do some Zoom calls with ex-players and stuff like that for people who refer their friends. That's all on the pledge website in the Your Account section. You can head to your referral code, send it on to your mates, to your family, and if they pledge, you will get access to those kind of things. But we're just really grateful that Warren Barton, Steve Howie and Alan Shearer have come out in public, supported this. They didn't have to do it. They could have easily sat back and waited to see what happened. But the fact that they've come out and given us their support is unbelievable. And we're really, really grateful to them. How long do you intend to let the pledging continue? And do you have milestones for amounts raised after 3 months, 6 months, etc.? Greg?
Well, we run it for as long as it takes. Really, we've not set a single target really in terms of how much to raise. I think Alex has talked about 1%, and at the current valuation that comes in around £3 million. But for good reason, we haven't set any arbitrary targets that don't actually mean a great deal. But I think we've mentioned already that if the trust doesn't grow, if the fund doesn't grow by 10% each year, the trustees can call a vote of the members of the trust to effectively stop the scheme and donate all of the money to Northeast charities. So that's how that'll work in that regard. But yeah, no real set target in that sense.
Yep, totally agree. Alex asks, will the trust automatically attempt to buy shares once a takeover goes through, or will there be a vote on the buying process starting? If PIF were involved as a member, I'd want to vote against. Greg, you've kind of already answered this one in a couple of other questions, but do you want to just make it clear for Alex again if you missed the earlier answers?
Yeah, so based on a recommendation of the guardians on what to do, then that goes to a vote of the members. Now, I think you can all agree that you have to vote on something before it happens for it to be meaningful. So as that process is ongoing, if we were in the position where we had something like that on the table, that would go to a vote of the members before it's done. A vote after something is not worth a vote. It's not it wouldn't be a rigged process. It would be a genuine say of the members on what to do with that money based on a recommendation from the guardians. So, absolutely, it is a proper have your say on it. It's not we've done a deal, take. It's you are a member of the trust. You have a say. You have a vote.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, so what we've got now potentially is just some questions that were sent in to us earlier today. So I just want to put a couple of them to you, Greg, if that's okay.
Yep.
You know, the first, I think we've covered most of it in this chat, and we've only got a couple of minutes left. You know, one of the main questions that's come in today is how much do we want to raise? Well, we've covered that. Some people have said, is there a maximum? You know, do you want to take that? Is there a maximum we're looking for?
Well, there isn't a maximum, is there? I think, you know, we'll go until we've got, you know, until there's a decision to be made almost, really. So no, there's no real maximum. I mean, yeah, I mean, you've got to be realistic, I think, in this. But yeah, not set an arbitrary target, so no maximum. But yeah, we'll go with it. You can't really set a maximum in something like this. I mean, it's not. I'm not naive enough to think that we're going to, you know, be in a position shortly to actually buy the club outright. You know, that's why we're talking around 1%, or, you know, worst case scenario, us being there as a pick it up off the floor. Really, I think is, you know, that Portsmouth analogy that you used before was really a good one. Actually, if you look at Portsmouth, their fans stepped in and bought the football club, and they've actually just sold it. But they didn't sell it to the first person who wants to buy it, because the people who often try and buy football clubs that are in trouble down at the bottom are chancers. People who are in it for themselves to make a quick buck and then get shot, get out. Look what's happened at various of those clubs. They had the benefit of stabilising their football club and then choosing, as a supporters trust, to sell it to what they believed were good owners with the right intentions for their football club. So yeah, no target, but let's keep it going and let's keep the momentum going.
Yeah, well said. Thank you for everyone who has watched tonight. We really appreciate 500 of you spending your time listening to me and Greg for an hour. You know, really nice comments here in the you know, in the comments. We really appreciate it. Just final one from me. This club is our club. The club belongs to us. It's not Newcastle United's training ground or its academy or its first team squad or its coaching staff that's worth £300 million. It's us, the supporters. Mike Ashley wants to make a massive profit on the football club that he has not done a great job with, to be blunt, over the past few years. What we're asking you to do today is invest in yourselves, invest in Newcastle United supporters. That's the most important message I can give you here, is the 1892 pledge scheme is about you. It's about Newcastle United. It's about us as a football club. We want to make sure we're represented when this club is sold. We might not do it. We can't promise anything. We'll only do it with your help. We're really proud of the day we've had today. We're really proud of the reaction of the supporters. We're really proud of Alan Shearer, Warren Barton, and Steve Howie getting behind it so publicly. Let's have a go. Let's see what we can do. If there's any football club fans that could do this, it's the fans of Newcastle United. And we really appreciate everyone who's pledged so far and everyone who's promised to pledge over the weekend and beyond that. So with that said, thank you, Greg, for your time, mate. We plan to be as transparent as possible. We'll do some more of these again. Thank you to everyone who put a comment in. Sorry we couldn't get to every single comment. We really appreciate it. We'll try and get your comments next time. And thank you. Thanks to everyone for watching. See you all soon. Ta-ra.
Thank you.